So if you listen to my other story about my overdose, you'll remember I was talking about the girl Stacy, the girl who got me started on heroin. Well, before all that happened, the first thing she introduced me to was crack cocaine. Never in my life as a child or even as a teenager did I ever in my life think I was going to do crack cocaine. And I'm embarrassed to admit it now. I'm embarrassed. I don't know why, because I don't really know what the difference is between smoking it and snorting it. Why snorting it is seen as cooler than smoking it. Because really, what's the fucking difference? I don't know. That's how society works. That's how society works. For some reason, crack is low class or something because you smoke it. I don't fucking know. So anyway, I'd snorted cocaine before in the past, a couple of years before, and it was all right. I just didn't like being around other people who were on it at the same time because they would just have diarrhea of the mouth. And when I would do cocaine, I would just get really stiff and really quiet and just kind of stare off. I wasn't super talkative when I was on it, like a lot of people are. And so being on that and having some other dude who's on it, he's got diarrhea of the mouth and he's talking about the fucking stupidest bullshit. So I never really had a great experience with it. Anyway, I just met Stacy. I didn't know her very well. I just knew she was kind of crazy and, maybe she would one day let me have sex with her vagina. So I started hanging out with her here and there. One night she calls me at 6 in the morning because I had promised her the day before that I would drive her to court because she didn't have a car. And so she called me at 6 in the morning that morning. And I was like, Stacy, you said you didn't have to be at court till 12. And she's like, yeah, I know. Listen, do you think before you take me to court, you could drive me up to Chester and we could buy some crack? Now, at this point, I didn't know her that well. And, of course, I was kind of game for anything at that time. So I was like, why the fuck not? Sure, I'll come pick you up. So we drove to Chester, in this bad part of Chester, Pennsylvania. And she told me where to go because apparently she was used to doing this. She told me where to go. And we met up with these three kids. These kids must have been like 16 or 17, and I was in my early 20s. They looked like fucking kids. And she went out and she bought some crack. And we get back in the car and she's got her little pipe thing. And we start smoking it and she's like, shit. And I'm like, what? I was tired. It was like 7 in the morning at this point. And she's like, it's fucking baking soda. So basically they'd ripped us off. And so I was like, fuck. Well, maybe we'll smoke some crack some other time. And she said, fuck that. I know another guy we can call. We went over. She went into this guy's house. She came back out with crack, bags of crack. And so we but at this point the sun was kind of coming up and it was lighter out. So she said, let's drive out of here and we'll smoke it. We'll smoke it somewhere else because Chester, it was in a shady part of town and there were like a lot of cops. And so I was like, all right. And so I was nervous because I didn't know this area at all. So I was driving her around, not knowing where the hell I was and getting all nervous and confused. And she's got crack in my car. And so I was just driving around trying to get off to the highway at 95. And all of a sudden, a cop car pulls up behind us and starts ringing his fucking police siren lights. And I almost shit my fucking pants. I was like, maybe he's just signaling for us to move over so he can drive away in front of us. But no, he was signaling at me to pull over. So I pulled over, rolled the window down, like, this is fucking it. He's going to search the car, and I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to have to tell all my real friends that I had crack in my car and that I was trying to smoke crack and how embarrassing that was going to be. The cop pulled me over, and he was like, you know why I pulled you over? And I really didn't know why. I just figured he saw two weird-looking people in a weird town, and that's why he pulled us over. He's like, I was like, no, I honestly don't, officer. And he was like, you just ran through 3 red lights in a row. And I remember looking over at Stacy, and she was like, God, you're fucking stupid. I guess I had gotten so nervous that I wasn't paying attention to the lights, like a fucking dumbass. And so I was shitting a brick. I was like, officer, I was trying to come up with some sort of excuse for why I did it. Other than that, I was a dumbass. And Stacy finally speaks up, and she's like, we're sorry, officer, but we're going to a funeral. Blah, 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 blah. She made up this whole fucking story right on the spot. It was really fucking good improvisation. It's amazing drug addicts, how good they are at stuff like that. At coming up with stories and lying. They make great actors and actresses. And the cop, listened to her, and he was kind of like, all right, let me see your license and registration. I pulled out the license and registration, and my registration had expired. And I was like, he told me this, and I was like, fuck. He kind of looked at us, and he said, listen, I'm going to let you guys off with a warning. But normally we would be towing this car off and making you call a cab. And so he gave me a ticket for like a fine or something like that, and drove off. And at this point, we just went, and I looked over, and she pulled her pants down, and I saw her vagina for the first time, and she went and she pulled the bags of crack out of her vagina. I didn't know she'd been storing them in there like a chipmunk. And so he drove off, and he totally had every reason to search that car. We were in a bad part of town. I skipped 3 red lights in a row, but he let us go. Anyway, so I took her to a court appointment, and that's when we started smoking the crack in the car. Because, if we had been sensible after getting pulled over, you'd think we would have gotten rid of it and said, let's change our lives around and not do this ever again. But no, we started smoking crack in the parking lot. And crack cocaine, when you smoke it, it's the greatest high in the world for 5 or 10 minutes. And then it's just gone and you feel like shit. And, we did it then. And we started doing that during the week at her apartment all the time. And it's just the worst fucking thing in the world. It's so evil. Again, it's only fun and it only feels good as long as you've got more of it. And when you run out, that's the worst. That's the worst feeling in the world. I remember we'd run out, and I personally would feel like shit after we ran out. And I'd be like, oh well, I'll try to sleep this off. If I had some beer, I'd drink that, and that would kind of mellow me out a little bit. But I remember whenever we'd run out, she'd immediately start searching the carpet, for in case we dropped any. Now, she had to know, like I knew, that we didn't drop any. And she wasn't fucking going to find anything in that carpet. But I'll be goddamn if she didn't search that carpet for 20, 30 minutes every single section of the carpet looking for some speck of leftover crack. And she, of course, she'd find like pebbles and or like crumbs of food and think it was crack and really like examine it like a fucking scientist. And it would just drive me nuts. And I'd be like, listen, Stacy. That's her fake name I'm giving her. There isn't any crack left. It's over. And she'd start crying. And you know what? Most of the time we'd go out, and if it was 3 a.m, it didn't matter. We'd go out and we'd buy some more. So, yeah, I don't ever want to do that shit again. All right, next story.